You are watching A Peek Behind the Lines. I'm Tiana Speter, and today I am joined by not one, but two bona fide icons joining forces in 2026 for a huge Australia and New Zealand co-headline tour. It's Brent Smith from Shinedown and Gavin Rossdale from Bush. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for chatting today.
Hi, Brent.
Super pumped to be here. Yeah, we know there's probably a delay considering the fact that we're in. Well, Tiana, you're a day ahead of us.
It's like we're a day ahead in time, but probably far behind in internet connectivity. So
Got it.
This upcoming tour obviously won't mark the first time you guys have teamed up for a tour. We did actually just speak about this before we jumped on this, but it will mark the first time since I think 2022 for Gavin that you've been down under. Now for Brent, a little bit longer between tours. We're at about 16 years since Shinedown were last in Australia, and it will also mark your first ever New Zealand performances. So music lovers' prayers over this side of the world have definitely been answered in 2026, but tell me, what are you each looking forward to the most about heading back later this year? I guess, Brent, we'll throw it over to you first because it's been a little bit longer.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for us was the fact that it has been 16 years since the first time we were in the country. The very first time we went down to Australia, we were on a tour called Soundwave, and then we had a couple of like one-off small club gigs, and we had a blast. It was during the Sound of Madness album cycle, and I mean, honestly, the reason for the now over a decade and a half has just been logistics and then timing and things of that nature. But honestly, me and Gavin were talking about this when we were doing, we were touring last year together, and I was asking him a lot about South America. I was asking him a lot about Asia, but specifically I told him, I was like, look, it's been a long time since we've been to Australia. We've never been to New Zealand. Just to be able to do the Pacific Rim and, to do it down under, just kind of, talking to him and picking his brain about everything. And then it just made total sense that, they were available. We were available. I think that our camp was also, I think the four of us in the band, we had to tell our management, our labels. I said, look, we can't go, we can't wait any longer to go back there. We really, really know there's a fan base and there's an audience there. And to be able to do it with Bush, to be able to do it with our friends is always just a big plus. But, me and Gavin definitely said, if we're going to go, we're going to bring all the bells and whistles. So we're super pumped.
Bring it. Well, what about you, Gavin? I know it hasn't been as long, but obviously coming out here with some very good friends. How are you feeling in the lead up to this to finally get back over here?
Yeah, it's exciting. Whenever you come and play there, we did Soundwave as well and the side shows. So you have these great shows in Australia. Last time we did lots of really obscure places for me, Wallabunga and places like that.
I don't
And
even know where that is.
yeah, no, I couldn't tell you, but it was a great show. But it's just it's like to go to South America, to go to Australia. It's just a fun way. It shows you that you've chosen the right life, that you have an interesting, and it's just fun. The live music scene in Australia is brilliant. There's such a tradition of that. So it's really sink or swim in Australia. If you can play, they'll let you stay, and if you can't, you can get out. So, and I know that Brent, puts on a fantastic show, and we always give everything that we have, and I think that's what links the band. Brent is awesome every night on stage, sings his heart out, connects with the audience, and it appeals to me. I like to sing well as well and connect with the crowd, and really, because because shows should change people, and they should be moved, and they should be elevated, and their night should be comforted. So I can't wait.
I love to hear that. And it is something, a resounding thing for both bands that I continue to see and hear from people is just how relentlessly praised your live show is. And it's no small feat when you're traveling to the other side of the globe and you've been doing this. I'm not going to say that you've been doing this for a lifetime, but you've been doing this for a large part of your life. So it is so awesome that at this point you get to still enjoy it and still feel that connection with the fans here. And with the shared history between the bands, I know you guys have already touched on that you did speak about it. You've obviously toured bit together before, but I read a chat, Brent, where you spoke about you and Gavin jumping on a call and reintroducing yourselves to each other. And I believe you were a fan of Bush growing up as well. Like, what are your earliest memories hearing Bush or discovering them for the first time? And do you actually remember your first meeting with Gavin?
I think the very first time that I met Gavin was actually in Milwaukee at a pretty famous club here in the US called The Rave. And we were only doing a couple of I think it was like 4 or 5 shows. My guitar player, Zach Myers, has been a massive fan of Gavin's for a very, very long time. But obviously, I go all the way back to 16 Stones and then Razorblade Suitcase. My the first time I saw Bush, like on any kind of television appearance or was even kind of introduced to them, I think it was when they were playing an MTV Spring Break and it began to rain and Gavin said, screw it. And he just went out there, electric guitar, pouring rain. He was like, if you guys stay out here, I will. And I kind of fell in love with the dude at that point, you know? And then, and then years later, it's like, being able to get to meet him and just finding out that he's just salt of the earth and one of the sweetest human beings on the planet and one of the most talented as well. That's always a plus. So, for me, but I do think the first time we met was at the rave in Milwaukee, and then obviously some festivals here and there and what have you. And then we had done some more touring, but we did a longer tour last year together and really had a ball.
I love to hear that. Well, Gavin, we can only make it fair and throw it over to you. Like, what's your Shinedown origin story? When did they first kind of come onto your radar? And does your memory of first meeting Brent sync up with his?
Yeah, I remember them because I remember being at a festival. I think it was like one huge cacophonous stadium, maybe RFK Stadium or somewhere or other. And I was hearing this band and I was really liking the intros. I was like, God, this band sounds amazing. And I said to Chris, I said, who's this band? It sounds really good. I love this. I love this. And he goes, oh, that's Shinedown. And my friends are in that band. Da, da, da. And so that's when I first heard about Shinedown. And then they basically would sort of witnessed their consistent meteoric kind of rise on success at radio and um, we had we'd run into each other a few times. I ran into Zach weirdly in England on stage at like Rock am Ring or somewhere weird. No, England download, and he said we should talk about touring and doing stuff like doing some shows together. And I was like, oh, well, okay. And he took my number. Then he's involved me. And I was like, I'm really not the agent. I'm not the best person to be dealing with this stuff. I don't really. And that kind of petered out. I sort of got involved for a bit, which is like, I became a drifter. I drifted into the lane of being the agent. And I was like on the phone. And suddenly I was like, this is really not I'm not good at this. So I pulled back. And then a few months later, it came about. This possibility, and then Brent and I spoke and chatted on the phone, and as the rest they say is a lot of shows since then, a lot of sweat, a lot of shows, a lot of people to help us. So it's to be fun, I think the crews know each other. There's various things that we're going to be sharing. It's just a really great thing to have a sort of a band you can go and do that with, because as you say, like Brent's saying about his absence down there, it's so much about timing, opportunities when you're available, the right record, then there's so many factors. So to get it together, well done us.
Here.
Not me.
No, you can take some credit for it.
No, man, honestly,
Brent is the agent.
No,
we'll give Brent equal share.
Listen, I'll take it when I can get it, but he's not wrong. I mean, at the end of the day, too, you kind of have to learn, in this industry, you have all of these people and they're there for your best interests, but it's your band, it's your career, it's your guys, it's your girls, however you want to look at it. You kind of have to take hold of it. One of the reasons why I started, just calling people and like with Gavin, why Zach is the way that he is, look, we have management, we have booking agents, there's business managers, there's all these people that you keep in tow. But at the end of the day, I've always looked at it, none of those people are out here when you're actually doing the performances and you're in buses and planes and trains, planes and automobiles. Yeah. So I just started to be like, well, if I'm, I only want to talk to the people that are actually going to be, the fundamentally like who's actually making these shows happen every single night. So it's really, really important for the bands and the crews to get along with each other. And we're lucky that we're professionals and we get along with one another, because at the end of the day too, man, when you're on a tour with people that you genuinely respect and you adore and you like, and you have a mutual respect for the music and the performance that they put on, I think it's the same thing in Bush as it is in Shinedown. We all have one boss. It just happens to be everybody in the audience.
Yeah. That's a really, really good way to look at it. And I love to hear that this mutual stuff has just continued throughout this whole time, and it's only going to continue to expand and take over the world even more than it already has. And on the note of how successful it has been in the past and leading up to what we're about to witness in September, as an outsider, it's just been incredible to see the endurance of both of your legacies, but also the fact that both Bush and Shinedown are still creating and releasing new music. Shinedown, of course, are about to release the new album 8, and Bush released I Beat Loneliness just last year. Your fan bases, from what I've seen, just seem to continue to expand, and you've got like multi-generational stuff. You look out in the crowd and there's like people are bringing their kids and they're introducing their grandkids, and you're just burgeoning into this multi-generational fact. What that does also change, though, is what songs may or may not make the set list. So without giving everything away for Aussie and New Zealand fans, have the set list chats been had yet for this September tour? Is there anything you can hint at about what we may expect? Because both of you do have some incredible new music to throw in the mix.
What do you think, Gavin? It's you go first, my man.
I just it's so fun playing new stuff as well. You know, the familiar doesn't ever have to go away, but it's a thrill to just step things up. And yeah, you get new people all the time. You know, Brent's having number ones all the time. So those number ones, those people, that's not all the original people only. That's younger people coming through. And it's just so great to have that multi-generational thing, because it just means it's a life well lived, and that you really have connected with people on a true level, because people hand you down in families, you know, across generations. There's nothing I love more than seeing a sort of a multi-generational audience, because it's a sign that you've got something right. You know, music either is magnetic and pulls you in, and you got to hold it, or it's like water in a sieve. You know, you just disappear, just notes, and you can't hold on to it. So I think that what Brent and I both worked really hard on is to craft and to have melodies, all the power in the world, but you have to have the melody to seduce people, and the melody to get people's vulnerable side, and you know, working hard at crafting the songs is probably the secret to both bands.
Well put. What about yourself, Brent?
Yeah, I mean, the other thing too is, like, for us, we have a little bit of a there's such a excitement because it's a territory that we haven't been to in quite some time. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's interesting because we just released our 37th single as a band, and you know, we are known for this band that has quite a vast catalog, not unlike Bush. So, you know, what you try to do is you look at the time frame, and when you're doing a co-headline tour, you look at the duration of time and how much you can put in there. And I think more than anything, obviously you can't play all the singles and you want to play some of the newer material, but you just do your best to kind of look at it and go, what are we going to, like, well, if we don't play this, we're probably not going to get out of here alive. So there's always that. So there's like, we try to hold on to like the top 10 where we go, no matter where we are, like these 10 songs, we know we probably need to play these. And then that gives you a little bit of wiggle room for, you know, if you're doing an 18 song set, 15 song set, 23 song set, however you look at it, you can kind of add a couple of things nightly that are a little bit different. But for the most part, you kind of go in going, let's make sure, you know, these are kind of the staples in the set list. And then you can kind of play around with the others.
Yeah, that's a diplomatic approach to it. And I think it keeps everyone happy as well across the board, because we want you guys to be happy as well as the fans, even though the fans are the bosses, as far as I've decided now.
100%.
But to close us out today, in honor of you both appearing on A Peek Behind the Lines today, can we take a quick peek behind the scenes into your respective writers? What's an essential item for each of you that will always make your writer? And what's the strangest thing on each of your writers these days?
Gavin.
Well, Brent. Okay. Well, it's a good question. It's a cute question, because there's a new sheriff in town in my life. I'm actually a dog handler now, so I'm having Bison is on my rider. So I give to my dog. I'm taking my dog on tour, so I've got to be thinking about his food. So let's go. The fun one would be off kilter, would be Bison, because it's really good low fat meat for him.
Perfect.
And then for me, you know, I like one. You know, probably Sapporo. Well, mind you, I've been in Australia, so I don't know what let's see what, you know, just a cold beer to get things just ready for the show is fine, or you know, that stuff. I know, you know, yeah, So that'll be that. But I suppose the bison will be the fun thing.
Yeah.
But in Australia, I won't have them with me. So I think it'd be like the problem with riders, right, is that they get really boring because they keep on showing up. Like I got into dates and cashew nuts, right? Trying to be healthy at the beginning of a tour, best intentions. And then what happened is that I had like a backup, a build up of all these cashews and all these dates. I don't even want them anymore. So you got to be careful with riders.
Yes.
But over to Brent. Over to Brent.
What's funny about this is, so we're actually in a conference room in an undisclosed hotel in Nashville, Tennessee, signing 25 vinyls for our new record. They're pre-orders. We literally today, not even 2 hours ago, were going over the new rider because we were taking things out of the rider. And the amount of garbage that we just for years would have just sitting on these riders was ridiculous. We have everything from like, just ridiculous stuff, like all kinds of chocolates and Cheez-Its and Cliff Bars and different arrays of salsa and bean, like just dumb stuff where like, God only knows how much this was costing us on a daily, just dumb, like silly beers that we don't drink anymore or anything of that nature. So it's interesting because we were cutting all of those things today. But I will say that bananas made it. Bananas made the list, which I found interesting. But back in the day, the silly thing, the kind of brown M&M, quote unquote, Van Halen, which, obviously everybody knows that story. Why did they do that? Well, there was this symbolism that, taking the brown M&Ms out of the bag was so that you were paying attention to the band, and so back in the day, the two silly things that we had on there was, and I this wasn't a joke, like, and they would show up, not all the time, but they would be there sometimes. And then it became ridiculous because, like Gavin was saying, like you have all these cashews that just keep more and more and more and more. But for us, the silly thing was fishing rods and green army men, meaning like you would get them at like toy stores back in the day. You could like go in and get just, little green, and then like fishing poles. So we would just have this array of like green army men and like fishing poles, and so that got silly after a while.
That is spectacular. I hope that there's still some kicking around in some venues, like stashed somewhere under a couch or something. We might find it.
Probably. Back in the day, it also used to be BB guns.
Yeah.
Those had to go away very quickly.
Look, you live and you learn, don't you? And you live at the same time, so it's all part of the fun. But
well, you got to tell me though, Tiana, like what should we have on the rider besides? Don't say Vegemite.
Oh, I would never say Vegemite. I feel like
what should be in? What should me and Gavin give us two things that we like as a local we should know we should have on our rider?
This is such a contentious question.
What about meat pie?
I reckon we could go a meat pie. It's got to be a good meat pie. We're going to have to find you a good local meat pie, and we either go for a good Australian beer or we go for a good Australian coffee if people aren't drinking. But I think we're going to have to split a beverage and a food.
I had no idea that there was such a coffee culture in Australia. I'm finding that out. I love coffee, so I'm going to be right at home.
Well, if you want to start a war, you can pit cities against each other.
Brent needs coffee. He likes it.
I gotta have coffee, man.
All right. Well, we'll get a beverage and we'll get a meat pie sorted for you, and then we might see what ridiculous things we can add to it. Maybe we'll throw some army men in just for nostalgia's sake, but we'll see how we
bring it on.
Amazing.
Bring it on.
Well, I know you have a lot to do before you get here, but Brent and Gavin, thank you so much for chatting and hanging out today. Shinedown and Bush, of course, will be heading to Australia and New Zealand this September. Two genuine greats teaming up to make some unforgettable new memories in 2026. Thank you both for chatting today, and have a great rest of your day.
Cheers.